Let me start with this: transformation is not a mystery, it's biology. And the changes you want in your brain, your body, your focus, and your energy levels. They are not dependent on willpower alone. They are also biochemical. And today we're going to get specific about how certain vitamins, when taken consistently, act like the gears behind your cognitive function, your neuroplasticity, your energy metabolism, and your long-term resilience. We're not talking hype, we're talking measurable physiological mechanisms, neural circuits, mitochondrial output, dopamine tone, inflammation modulation. All of it is influenced by key vitamins, the ones most people are not getting in optimal amounts. The ones you can change starting today. Vitamin B complex, the brain's energy currency. Let's begin with the B vitamins, particularly B1, thiamine, B6, pyridoxine, B9, folate, and B12, cobalamin. These are not just supporting characters, they're lead actors in your brain's energy theater. B vitamins are deeply involved in methylation pathways, the systems your body uses to detoxify, repair DNA, and produce neurotransmitters. If those pathways are sluggish, your brain feels it, your mood drops. Your brain feels it, your mood drops, your focus blurs. Your mental resilience fades. When B12 is low, the myelin sheaths that protect your neurons begin to fray. That's cognitive decline, early aging of your nervous system. Folate and B6 help regulate homocysteine levels, and when homocysteine gets too high, your risk of neurodegeneration increases. In fact, studies show that people with optimized B vitamin levels have 30 to 50% slower brain atrophy rates in areas linked to memory and executive function. This is not a theory. This is structural preservation of the human brain. Vitamin D3, the hormone that thinks it's a vitamin, vitamin D, is often misunderstood. It's technically not a vitamin. It's a hormone precursor. It modulates over 2,000 genes, including those responsible for brain development, immune function, and inflammation control. Let's talk science. Vitamin D3 binds to receptors all over the brain, especially in the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, and the limbic system. That means it affects your memory, your decision-making, and your emotional regulation. Low vitamin D, that's not just weaker bones. That's reduced synaptic efficiency. It's slower thought processing. It's a brain that operates at 70% capacity. One double-blind study showed that adults supplementing with adequate D3 had improved reaction time, working memory, and processing speed in just 8 weeks. Another revealed that individuals with optimal vitamin D levels were less likely to develop depressive symptoms and in many cases recovered faster when treated. You want to transform your mental state? Get serious about vitamin D3, especially in winter months, especially if you're indoors often. Vitamin C, the neuroprotector vitamin C, is not just for immunity. It's one of the most concentrated antioxidants in the human brain. It supports the synthesis of dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine, the neurotransmitters that govern alertness, drive, and energy. It also acts as a cofactor in collagen production. Why does that matter? Collagen isn't just skin deep. It's essential for the integrity of your blood vessels, including the microcapillaries that supply oxygen and nutrients to your brain. Chronic stress burns through vitamin C rapidly. And when you're deficient, you can feel the effects: fatigue, fog, irritability, even poor recovery from training. But when you're replete in vitamin C from citrus, bell peppers, or a well-dosed supplement, you enhance neuroprotection, reduce oxidative stress, and stabilize your mood. Vitamin E, the fat-soluble shield. Vitamin E is critical for the brain. Why? Because your brain is mostly fat. And fats are prone to lipid peroxidation, a process where free radicals attack the membranes of your brain cells, damaging them, compromising their function. Vitamin E is your first line of defense against this decay. Specifically, the alpha-tocopherol form of vitamin E embeds itself in your cell membranes and neutralizes those free radicals. That means it preserves neuronal integrity and prevents early cognitive decline. One study published in JAMA showed that vitamin E supplementation slowed functional decline in patients with mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease significantly. That tells us something important. Even in cases of existing cognitive deterioration, vitamin E provides neuroprotective benefits. In a healthy brain, it enhances plasticity. It keeps your thoughts sharp, your memory intact, your reflexes precise. Vitamin K2, the unsung hero. Vitamin K2 doesn't get the attention it deserves, but it is absolutely essential for both body and brain. It regulates calcium distribution, ensuring that calcium goes to your bones and teeth, not your arteries or sore soft tissues. That means better vascular health, which directly impacts cerebral blood flow. Good blood flow, better oxygenation, better nutrient delivery, better brain performance. But here's what most people don't know. Vitamin K2 activates proteins that protect brain cells from oxidative damage and inflammation. It also plays a role in sphingolipid metabolism, essential fats that are building blocks of brain cell membranes. Emerging research now suggests that low Q levels are associated with cognitive aging and even increased risk of dementia. You want long-term brain vitality? You want a body that stays strong and flexible? Don't overlook K2. Vitamin A, the vision molecule with neurological power. Vitamin A is known for vision, but it's also critical for gene expression, immune regulation, and neurogenesis, the formation of new neurons. Retinoic acid, the active form of vitamin A, influences how brain cells grow and connect. It even affects the hippocampus, the seat of learning and memory. Deficiencies in vitamin A during early development result in profound cognitive delays, and even in adulthood, suboptimal levels can impair memory and learning speed. Moreover, vitamin A regulates immune function in the gut, and the gut-brain axis is a central player in your mood, energy, and motivation. The connection is direct. When gut health declines, mental health follows. Vitamin A acts as a bridge between the two. Real transformation requires consistency. Here's the part that matters most. You don't just take these vitamins once and see a miracle. That's not how biology works. You layer them consistently. You give your cells what they need to build, repair, and evolve. You feed the brain its molecular tools, and then over weeks and months, you begin to notice a shift. More energy in the morning, sharper recall in meetings, more resilience under stress, less irritability, faster muscle recovery, more presence with the people around you. That's transformation, and it starts with the compounds you put into your body daily. These are not placebos, they're molecular drivers of change. If you're deficient, you're not operating at your potential. But when you dial in your vitamin intake with whole foods, targeted supplementation, and intelligent protocols, your entire physiology changes. Transformation begins where biology is respected, not ignored. The most powerful upgrades in cognition, energy, mood, and physical performance don't come from vague motivation or abstract ideas. They come from molecular changes, the kind that happen inside your cells, inside your neurons, inside the mitochondria that fuel your every action. And specific vitamins are not merely optional accessories in that process. They are the fundamental building blocks, the critical drivers, the non-negotiable inputs your body and brain require to evolve. When these vitamins are present at optimal levels, they activate cascades of biochemical reactions that enhance how you think, how you move, and how resilient you are. When they are absent or deficient, the system falters slowly at first. Then all at once, you experience fatigue, brain fog, emotional instability, poor recovery, and over time, structural and functional decline. That is not failure of will. That is failure of micronutrient sufficiency. And correcting it is not just about taking a multivitamin and hoping for the best. It is about understanding the specific vitamins that drive transformation and aligning your intake with your biology. Take the B-complex vitamins. These molecules are not just water-soluble helpers. They are essential participants in neurotransmitter synthesis, mitochondrial energy production, and even DNA repair. Thiamine B1 helps convert glucose into ATP, the energy currency of your neurons. Pyridoxine B6 is directly involved in the synthesis of serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, the neurotransmitters that shape your mood, motivation, and sense of calm. Folate B9 and cobalamin B12 regulate methylation pathways, which determine how genes are expressed and how homocysteine, a marker of cardiovascular and neurological inflammation, is managed. High homocysteine is a predictor of brain atrophy and cognitive decline, but adequate levels of B6, B9, and B12 dramatically lower that risk. In fact, studies have shown that supplementation with these B vitamins slows brain shrinkage in regions associated with Alzheimer's disease by as much as 30 to 50%. That's not theory. That's anatomical preservation, real, tangible protection of the brain tissue that governs memory, focus, and executive function. Vitamin D3 is another molecule often overlooked. It is not merely a vitamin, it is a hormone precursor with effects on more than 2,000 genes in the human genome. Its receptors are found throughout the brain, particularly in the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus, areas crucial for decision-making and memory consolidation. Low levels of vitamin D3 correlate with impaired cognitive performance, increased depressive symptoms, and heightened susceptibility to neuroinflammation. What makes this critical is the fact that nearly 1 billion people globally are deficient in D3, and the signs don't show up overnight. They appear as slow mental decline, emotional instability, and reduced stress resilience. Supplementing with vitamin D3 has been shown to improve processing speed, increase dopamine synthesis, and reduce the intensity of mood swings. It also modulates immune function and inflammatory tone, which play a direct role in how well your brain recovers from stress and how rapidly your body heals from injury. The data is clear. Vitamin D3 is a neurological asset and a systemic necessity. Then there's vitamin C. We often hear of it as an immune booster, but its role in neurological health is just as vital. Vitamin C is one of the most concentrated antioxidants in the brain, and for good reason. Neurons are highly susceptible to oxidative stress due to their metabolic activity, and vitamin C neutralizes the free radicals that threaten their function and longevity. But the impact doesn't stop at protection. Vitamin C is also a cofactor in the biosynthesis of dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine, the molecules that drive your focus, alertness, and motivation. Low levels of vitamin C don't just weaken your immune system, they dull your mind. They flatten your energy, they impair your ability to stay sharp under pressure. Research shows that individuals with higher vitamin C levels perform better on cognitive tasks, report lower levels of fatigue, and recover more efficiently from both physical and psychological stressors. It is also involved in collagen synthesis, which supports the structural integrity of blood vessels, including those that supply oxygen to your brain. Better circulation, better nutrient delivery, better brain performance. That's not a nice to have. That's a must-have. Vitamin E is another overlooked powerhouse. It's a fat-soluble antioxidant that embeds itself in the membranes of your cells, particularly the lipid-rich membranes of your neurons. Your brain is composed primarily of fat, and that fat is vulnerable to lipid peroxidation, a process where free radicals attack and degrade the fats that form the structural basis of your neural connections. Vitamin E protects against this breakdown. It preserves the physical integrity of your brain's architecture. Clinical studies have demonstrated that adequate vitamin E intake is associated with slower rates of cognitive decline in aging populations. One double-blind trial even showed that vitamin E supplementation slowed functional deterioration in patients with Alzheimer's, enabling them to maintain daily activities for significantly longer. And it does more than protect. Vitamin E promotes synaptic plasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, to learn, to adapt. That's transformation on a cellular level. Vitamin K2 is rarely discussed in this context, but its effects on the brain and body are profound. While K1 is essential for blood clotting, K2 activates proteins that regulate calcium metabolism. That means it directs calcium to your bones and teeth and away from your arteries and soft tissues. Why does that matter for your brain? Because vascular health is brain health. The ability of your brain to function depends on its access to oxygen and nutrients via a dense network of blood vessels. If those vessels are hardened or narrowed by calcification, your cognition suffers. But vitamin K2 ensures that those pathways stay open and flexible. Even more interesting, K2 plays a role in sphingolipid metabolism, a class of lipids that are fundamental components of brain cell membranes. Disruptions in sphingolipid pathways are implicated in neurodegenerative diseases. K2 helps maintain the integrity of those pathways. It is also involved in regulating inflammation and oxidative stress in the central nervous system. Deficiency in K2 doesn't just weaken bones. It compromises your neural resilience and accelerates cognitive aging. That's not a micronutrient deficiency, that's a transformation deficit. Vitamin E rounds out this lineup as another unsung neurological ally. Often associated with vision, vitamin E, particularly in its active form, retinol acid, has major effects on brain development and adult neurogenesis. It influences the growth and differentiation of neurons, regulates synaptic plasticity, and even modulates long-term potentiation, the cellular mechanism underlying learning and memory. Vitamin E also supports immune function in the gut, and as we now know, the gut-brain axis is a powerful conduit for mood, energy, and cognitive performance. Gut inflammation correlates with brain fog, anxiety, and depressive symptoms. Vitamin E helps maintain the gut lining, regulate immune signaling, and promote a healthy microbiome balance, all of which feed back into brain function. In both developing and adult brains, vitamin E deficiency has been linked to impaired memory, decreased learning ability, and disrupted emotional regulation. It is not optional, it is essential. Now, the truth is that these vitamins do not act in isolation. They operate in synergy. Vitamin D affects calcium absorption, which works alongside vitamin K2 to direct it properly. B vitamins influence neurotransmitter synthesis, which depends on adequate levels of vitamin C. The entire system is interdependent. And the quality of your mental performance, your physical strength, your emotional stability, it hinges on the of these molecules in sufficient and consistent quantities. But here's the key: sufficiency is not the same as optimization. Many people are not deficient by clinical standards but are still functioning far below their potential because they are not optimized. Their vitamin levels are just enough to avoid disease, but not enough to generate excellence. And excellence is what we're after, because you are not here to survive. You are here to thrive, to learn faster, to adapt better, to recover stronger, to endure longer. And that does not happen on a diet of nutrient-depleted foods, underexposure to sunlight, and chronic stress that burns through your micronutrient stores. That happens when you deliberately support the chemical foundations of your biology. That happens when you feed your brain what it needs to build, repair, and evolve. So the next time you hear someone talk about transformation, ask the deeper question: what inputs are you giving your system? Because motivation without molecules is like trying to run a jet engine on fumes. You might get off the ground for a while, but you won't fly far. But when you give your body and brain the precise vitamins they were designed to run on, when you honor the biology that supports your ambition, you create the conditions for lasting, measurable, unstoppable transformation. The human body and brain are not designed for sporadic input. They are systems governed by patterns, rhythms, and signals that require repetition to adapt, rewire, and grow. Transformation, whether cognitive or physical, is not born out of novelty. It's born out of consistency, the relentless repetition of supportive inputs over time. That's where supplementation becomes far more than a convenience or a casual habit. It becomes the biochemical ritual that supplies your cells with the precise molecules they need day after day to carry out the microscopic work of repair, performance, and evolution. It's not the pill that changes you, it's the pattern. And without consistency, no biological upgrade can sustain itself. The nervous system depends on it. The endocrine system is built around it. And every ounce of progress you want in clarity, energy, mood, strength, or immunity hinges on the stability of those signals. Supplements, when strategically chosen and properly dosed, act like consistent whispers to your cells. They're reminders that the system can keep functioning at its highest capacity. But miss enough days and those whispers go silent. The machinery slows. Neurotransmitter production diminishes. Mitochondrial energy output fades, inflammation creeps in, hormonal balance shifts. It's not dramatic at first, just a little more fatigue, a bit less focus, subtle mood irregularities. But over time, these seemingly small lapses compound into a noticeable decline in how you perform, feel, and recover. The body doesn't punish inconsistency out of spite. It simply recalibrates based on the inputs it receives most often. And if those inputs stop, so do the adaptations. Biological change is not linear, it is cumulative. And the effects of supplementation, especially with critical nutrients like omega-3s, magnesium, vitamin D3, B complex, creatine, and adaptogens, are not always immediately felt because they are often stabilizing systems you don't consciously perceive. The brain doesn't send you a notification every time your dopamine synthesis improves or your mitochondrial ATP output increases. It doesn't alert you when oxidative stress is being buffered by a steady supply of antioxidants. Instead, it rewards you with increased clarity, emotional resilience, and a greater capacity to process and respond to your environment. But that reward doesn't come from a single dose. It comes from repeated inputs that allow for adaptation. That's how neurons strengthen. That's how gene expression changes. That's how metabolic pathways are optimized. It's not magic, it's molecular repetition. Take something as seemingly simple as magnesium. This mineral is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, including the regulation of GABA, a neurotransmitter critical for calm and sleep. It's also essential for ATP production, muscle contraction, nerve conduction, and even DNA repair. But magnesium is also one of the most commonly deficient nutrients in modern populations due to soil depletion and processed food consumption. If you supplement with it for one day, you won't notice much. A week in, maybe your sleep quality improves slightly. 2 weeks, you start waking up more rested. 4 weeks, your nervous system is calmer under stress. 8 weeks, your exercise recovery improves. The longer you maintain consistent intake, the more your intracellular magnesium stores are replenished and the more robust your body becomes at a cellular level. But skip days frequently or stop altogether, and your system slowly slides back into deficiency. Your body remembers what you give it regularly, and it forgets what you only occasionally provide. The same principle applies to omega-3 fatty acids, particularly EPA and DHA. These molecules are not just heart healthy, they are essential for brain function. DHA is a major structural component of the brain's gray matter, and EPA plays a key role in modulating inflammation. Regular supplementation has been shown to improve cognitive flexibility, mood regulation, and even impulse control. But these effects are dose-dependent and time-dependent. It can take 6 to 12 weeks of consistent intake to fully integrate omega-3s into neuronal membranes. That's not a flaw. That's biology, working at the speed of integration. Miss days, skip weeks, and those membranes revert. The structural and functional gains you worked for begin to erode. That's why the people who get results are not those who supplement when it's convenient. They are those who treat consistency as a discipline. The nervous system, in particular, thrives on predictable support. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire and form new connections, does not respond to randomness. It responds to rhythm. When you feed the brain a steady supply of micronutrients, adaptogens, and cofactors, you increase its capacity to learn, adapt, and stabilize under pressure. Think about that for a moment. Stability under pressure isn't just psychological toughness. It's biochemical readiness. And readiness is not born from an occasional dose of L-Theanine or ashwagandha. It's the result of weeks and months of consistent neurochemical reinforcement. That consistency is what tells your nervous system you are supported. You are safe. You can grow. Remove that signal and the system tightens. Stress hormones increase. Cognitive bandwidth shrinks. Emotional volatility rises. But keep that signal steady and the brain becomes a high-performance engine, efficient, resilient, and adaptive. The same goes for hormonal systems. Take vitamin D3, which functions more like a hormone than a vitamin. Consistent levels are required to regulate testosterone, estrogen balance, thyroid output, and immune surveillance. Sporadic supplementation does not provide the steady serum concentrations needed to activate the vitamin D receptor across multiple tissues. And here's what matters: your endocrine system functions like an orchestra. If one section is out of sync, your adrenals, your thyroid, your pituitary, the whole performance is thrown off. You don't fix that with a random dose, you fix that with rhythm. You fix it with a daily signal that tells your biology, this is the new normal. That's how internal change becomes external transformation. The science is not just theoretical, it's measurable. Clinical studies that demonstrate real improvements in biomarkers, mood, cognition, or energy always emphasize one thing: duration. Whether it's creatine improving brain energy metabolism, B vitamins reducing homocysteine, or vitamin K2 supporting arterial flexibility, the results don't show up in a day. They show up in 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months. That's not because the supplements are slow. It's because biology is methodical. It doesn't react to one-time inputs. It reconfigures itself in response to sustained signals. Those signals come from you, from your habits, from your daily choices. And that's where most people miss the opportunity. They treat supplements like aspirin, something to take when there's a problem. But the truth is, the most powerful impact of supplementation is preventive and foundational. It's about creating an internal environment where problems don't develop in the first place, where your body has what it needs to build muscle, repair neurons, balance hormones, and fight inflammation long before you notice anything going wrong. That kind of defense requires strategy, and strategy requires consistency. There is also a psychological layer to this. When you commit to daily supplementation, you are not just feeding your body, you are training your identity. You are reinforcing a narrative: I support my biology, I invest in my future, I show up daily for my health. That story shapes how you move through the world. It influences what you eat, how you sleep, how you train, and how you recover. Consistency in supplementation becomes a keystone habit, one that supports other positive behaviors through biochemical and behavioral alignment. Your body is listening every day. It listens to your stress. It listens to your sleep. It listens to your nutrition, your hydration, your light exposure, and yes, your supplements. And what you say to it consistently is what it builds itself around. If you tell it through your actions that it's worth supporting, it will respond with energy, clarity, strength, and resilience. If you tell it through inconsistency that its support is negotiable, it will respond with instability, fatigue, and dysfunction. It's not personal, it's physiological. And it's your choice. The path to transformation is not made of breakthroughs. It's made of repetitions, of daily molecular inputs that, over time, reshape the terrain of your biology. one capsule, one powder, one tincture. Repeat it again and again until your mitochondria have more energy, your neurons fire more efficiently, your immune system regulates inflammation with precision, and your hormones synchronize with strength and calm. That's what consistency builds. Not just health, not just performance, but transformation from the inside out. Every moment of your existence is governed by molecular events. Thoughts, emotions, movements, memories, digestion, immunity, none of these are abstract processes. They are the direct result of molecular interactions inside cells, tissues, and organs. The brain and body are molecular machines. They don't work based on willpower or vague intentions. They work based on chemistry. Neurons communicate through neurotransmitters. Muscles contract because of calcium ions and ATP. Hormones regulate mood, metabolism, and motivation by binding to specific receptors. Every heartbeat, every idea, every act of strength or clarity begins with molecules moving into position. So if your goal is to function better, to think more clearly, feel more stable, perform at a higher level, then your first mission must be to optimize the molecules your system depends on. This is not a philosophy, it's biochemistry. And what determines your molecular landscape? It's what you consume, what you absorb, what you allow or fail to allow into your bloodstream, into your cells, into your neurons. Food, supplements, light, movement, breath, these are the inputs that shape your molecular reality. If the inputs are incomplete or chaotic, your brain and body are left to operate with suboptimal tools. If the inputs are precise and consistent, your biology has the raw material to build resilience, adaptability, and power. Consider neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers of the brain. Serotonin, dopamine, GABA, acetylcholine, glutamate. These are not spontaneously created in your mind by good vibes. They are synthesized through enzymatic processes that require amino acids. Vitamins and minerals, for example, dopamine, which plays a central role in motivation, attention, and reward seeking, is created from the amino acid tyrosine. That process depends on cofactors like iron, vitamin B6, and folate. Without enough of these micronutrients, dopamine synthesis falters. The result: fatigue, lack of drive, inability to focus, and even symptoms of depression. But when the right nutrients are consistently available, the dopaminergic system stabilizes, allowing for sharper focus, greater perseverance, and elevated mood. Now shift your lens to the energy systems of the body. ATP, adenosine, or triphosphate is the currency of energy. Whether you're thinking, sprinting, lifting, or digesting, ATP being burned. And ATP production is controlled by mitochondria, the powerhouses, inside each cell. But mitochondria don't run on willpower. They run on molecules. Magnesium, CoQ10, B vitamins, L-carnitine, alpha-lipoic acid, these are molecular co-pilots in the process of oxidative phosphorylation. If you're missing them, energy production slows. It doesn't matter how disciplined you are. Without the right molecules, your cells can't make enough energy and you crash. But with the right molecular environment built through nutrient-rich food, strategic supplementation, and consistent metabolic input, your energy becomes sustainable, resilient, and high-performing. Hormonal systems are also profoundly sensitive to molecular inputs. Take testosterone and estrogen, which affect everything from libido to cognition to muscle mass. Their production and metabolism rely on a cascade of enzymatic steps that require zinc, magnesium, vitamin D3, cholesterol, and adequate protein intake. Vitamin D3 in particular acts as a hormone itself, influencing calcium metabolism, immune function, and even gene expression in over 1,000 different sites in the genome. A deficiency in vitamin D3 doesn't just impact your bones, it impacts your ability to regulate inflammation, maintain strength, and generate appropriate hormonal output. This is why optimized molecular inputs can translate to better endurance, better recovery, and improved mental stability. Molecules drive these outcomes, not motivation, not hype, chemistry, and it's not just about isolated systems. The brain and body work as an integrated feedback loop. If your gut is inflamed, your immune system becomes hyperactive and your brain begins to suffer. Cytokines, molecular signals of inflammation, cross the blood-brain barrier and impair neurotransmitter balance. You feel anxious, sluggish, disconnected. But when your diet supplies prebiotic fibers, omega-3 fatty acids, and polyphenols that feed healthy gut bacteria, those bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which in turn reduce inflammation, reinforce the gut barrier, and stabilize the immune system. That molecular cascade improves not just digestion, but mood and cognition. Your microbiome doesn't respond to wishful thinking, it responds to molecular input. Hydration is molecular. Every nerve impulse depends on sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium gradients across cellular membranes. Every time you think a thought, you're relying on precise electrolyte distribution to send that electrical signal. If you're chronically dehydrated or depleted in key electrolytes, neurons misfire, muscles cramp, and cognition declines. Even mild dehydration, just a 1 to 2% drop in body water, has been shown to impair memory, increase fatigue, and decrease alertness. You don't fix that with caffeine. You fix that with molecular restoration, structured water, trace minerals, and consistent electrolyte balance. The same principle applies to sleep. Melatonin, your sleep-regulating hormone, is synthesized from serotonin, which again requires vitamin B6, magnesium, and tryptophan. Optimizing sleep is not about trying harder. It's about aligning molecules. Inflammation, a key driver of disease and aging, is also a molecular phenomenon. Chronic low-grade inflammation is associated with nearly every degenerative condition: Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, depression. And inflammation is perpetuated by an imbalance of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids, insufficient antioxidants, excess sugar, poor sleep, and elevated cortisol. But you can reverse this molecular trend. Consistent intake of curcumin, resveratrol, omega-3s, and magnesium downregulates inflammatory gene expression. Your immune system becomes more discerning, less reactive, and more intelligent. And this molecular shift leads to greater mental clarity, faster recovery, and longer health span. Once again, the solution lies not in general wellness trends, but in molecular precision. What's crucial to understand is that the body and brain don't respond to what you believe, they respond to what you give them. You can't think your way into high performance. You can't journal your way out of neurotransmitter depletion. You can't affirm your way to optimize mitochondria. You have to feed the system. And feeding it doesn't just mean food, it means specificity. It means identifying which molecules your biology is hungry for and delivering them with accuracy, consistency, and enough time to shift the system. This is not about fads or hacks. This is about restoring the molecular foundation that every high-functioning human system depends on. The brain, for example, is highly plastic, capable of change, growth, and learning throughout life. But that plasticity depends on BENF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that supports neuron growth and survival. What boosts BENF? Physical exercise, especially high-intensity intervals, omega-3 fatty acids, intermittent fasting, curcumin, sleep, exposure to sunlight. All of these are molecular triggers that increase BENF and enhance cognitive flexibility. The brain becomes more adaptable, more resilient, more able to overcome stress. That kind of upgrade isn't theoretical, it's molecular. And it's available to you if you engineer the right inputs. Molecular inputs are not just about avoiding disease, they're about elevating your baseline. When you optimize molecules, you optimize cognition, mood, physical capacity, sexual function, creativity, emotional regulation, and immune resilience. This is the frontier of human performance, understanding that your biology is not static but responsive. Responsive to the chemistry you give it. Responsive to how consistently you deliver those molecules. Responsive to whether you feed it by accident or by design. When you wake up and expose your eyes to sunlight, you're triggering a molecular cascade in the suprachiasmatic nucleus that sets your circadian rhythm and controls your cell, cortisol, and melatonin cycles for the rest of the day. When you eat a high-protein breakfast with B-complex cofactors, you're supporting dopamine and serotonin synthesis. When you train in a fasted state and follow it with magnesium and creatine, you're enhancing mitochondrial biogenesis and neuromuscular signaling. These are not surface-level routines, they are molecular strategies, and each one builds a stronger version of you because each one alters the chemistry that your brain and body operate on. This is the truth. Your performance is biochemical. Your resilience is biochemical. Your recovery, your learning, your memory, your immune defense, all biochemical. And your biochemistry is a reflection of what you put into your system. You have control over that. You can feed your biology in a way that signals strength, clarity, and growth, or you can neglect it and hope that good intentions will be enough. But the body doesn't run on intentions, it runs on inputs. And the quality of your inputs determines the quality of your outputs. The brain and body are not separate from the world, they are an extension of it. They mirror what you consume, what you expose yourself to, and what you allow into your bloodstream. You are a walking expression of your molecules, and when you optimize them, you don't just feel better. You become better, not in a vague philosophical sense, but in a measurable neurological, cellular, and hormonal sense. That is the power of precision. That is the power of optimizing inputs. And that is the gateway to optimizing yourself.